Lord of the Mysteries. Chapter 1164. Cheating. Although Klein had been a Beyonder for less than 2 years, his experience could be described as rich and exciting, even among Sequence 4 and Sequence 3 saints. The things he possessed or encountered before that could be summoned from the historical void, and the ones that were capable of quickly killing him didn't number many. Here, he chose the flaring sun charm that he had used in Tingen City. He had already recited the incantation, injected his spirituality into it, and was about to activate the charm. Indeed, to a demigod of the seer pathway that meant bizarreness and change, it wasn't very effective against him. He mainly depended on the damage it did to his body, but Klein didn't dodge or defend himself. Instead, he released his body and mind to embrace the light of hope. Even at the level of a Sequence 3 scholar of yore, the defense of a seer pathway's Beyonder remained low. His offensive ability was also equally insufficient compared to his peers. This resulted in a sad fact. When Klein wanted to commit suicide, he didn't have any powers that could quickly kill himself. After all, it was impossible for him to control his spirit-body threads and transform himself into his marionette. This would result in logical contradictions. Towards the end of the process, he would lack the ability to continue making himself a marionette. And when he was searching for ways to kill himself through external means, he realized that, as long as he didn't use methods like marionette interchange, paper figurine substitutes, and historical void hiding, there were too many options that he could consider. The seer was such a powerful pathway that veered towards the extremes. Seeing that Klein was about to take out a flaring sun charm from the fog of history, along with having a strong desire to commit suicide, Amon only smiled. Without even raising his hand, he stole the entire idea, causing the crystal monocle to glow slightly. Klein immediately forgot what he was trying to do. But his actions didn't stop. His shocked reaction when he heard that they were only half a day away from the final destination was mostly faked. This was because he had always been wary of the god of deceit. He didn't trust anything that, he said. There were too many interpretations of not more than 3 days. So Klein had long prepared for the worst. After hearing what Amon said, he immediately arranged the things he needed to do into a sequence. After having the idea of summoning the flaring sun charm to commit suicide, it was to summon that existence, summon this, that, and those existences. He made it cyclic, hoping that no matter how many thoughts Amon stole from him, he would still follow his original plan and perform the corresponding actions. Regarding this matter, back when he dealt with 0-08, he had been thinking about it above the gray fog. He had used the experience of treating the real him as a marionette and only following a predetermined set of actions. This helped him greatly. At that moment, although he didn't know what he was trying to do, to the point of not realizing that he had forgotten something, he knew very well what he would do next. The past wasn't important, but the present and future were key. Klein reached out his palm again and grabbed the void in front of him. His entire arm sank. However, when he retracted his right hand, nothing came out. At the same time, Amon raised his palm and gently swiped forward. He had stolen the historical void projection that Klein had summoned. A figure quickly appeared beside Amon. It was an elder dressed in a hooded black robe. His eyes were deep black, like a dark water surface, and the white beard around his mouth was long and dense. Zeratul, the leader of the secret order, the Sequence 1 angel, Zeratul. The existence that Klein had attempted to summon was actually Zeratul, and he had succeeded in one try. This was because he had made preparations in advance. Back in the city that the Phoenix believers had built, when Klein had split his marionettes into 3 groups, he was actually attempting to summon Zeratul from the historical void. Without a doubt, it was impossible to succeed at that time. However, as a scholar of yore, it would be a massive failure if one failed to notice that someone else was trying to summon their historical projection. As for Zeratul, he was definitely a senior, excellent, and experienced scholar of yore. After such a failed summoning, Klein had established a connection with Zeratul. This was the tacit understanding between scholars of yore. As for a miracle invoker, an attendant of mysteries, he was able to respond to his historical projection. It was just like how a scholar of yore had 100% chance of success when borrowing strength from his past. In addition, a scholar of yore had no contractual connection with the historical void projection. They relied on the other party's lack of intelligence, or them having good relationships with them, to control it. And in this world, the few high-level existences most unwilling to see Amon obtain Sapphira Castle was Mr. Dor, followed by Pallas, and then Zeradal. In other words, the two of them were short-term allies when it came to resisting Amon. Due to these factors, Klein believed that he could summon Zeradal in one go. And the facts proved that he was right. And it was precisely because of this that he wasn't worried at all that Amon would steal away his historical projection that he had summoned. He even hoped that the Angel of Time would do so. As for the reason why he first came up with the idea of committing suicide before summoning Zaratu, it was to let Amon steal his thoughts. And for Amon, he would be happy to try since he was a king of angels in search of excitement. With too many choices for him to choose from, it was unlikely he would repeat another thought usurpation. It might be the theft of a historical void projection. This was one of the few trump cards that Klein had. In the next second, Zeradal's gaze turned from a glazed one to a spirited and real one. Clearly, this attendant of mysteries, a senior scholar of yore, had entered the historical void and allowed his projection from the same era to receive his consciousness. And having his own consciousness meant that Zeradal's projection didn't hesitate at all to firmly cast his gaze at Amon. The eyes of Amon, the ones wearing and not wearing the monocle, narrowed at the same time. He saw the lightning around him increase in frequency as the vast wilderness with many ravines instantly turned empty and dark. They were speckled with twinkling stars. He had apparently been pulled beneath the cosmos by Zeradal. This was a miracle. As for the projection opposite of Amon, it had already transformed into a gigantic, mysterious whirlpool formed by squirming maggots. They extended out in all directions with transparent tentacles. Just looking at them would make humans lose their minds and turn crazy. At that moment, Klein abandoned the other thoughts in the queue. He took the opportunity to control a monster deep in the darkness and transform it into his marionette. Immediately following that, he switched places with his marionette. After coming to the depths of the darkness, Klein reached out his hand once again to grab at the air in front of him a few times in succession. His marionette did the same action as well. Finally, he dragged a new figure out of the void. It was a figure dressed in a simple linen robe, with a tree bark as a belt. Standing there, barefooted with long, black hair, Ariana's facial features were ordinary and her eyes dark and cold. The Evernight Cloister's matron, the ascetic leader, the servant of concealment, the grounded angel, Ariana. As soon as Ariana appeared, her dark eyes turned normal. She didn't look like a projection at all. Her true body seemed to have entered a concealed state, allowing the summoned historical void projection to also possess intelligence. This was also one of the reasons why Klein had chosen to summon her, and had given up on summoning Mr. Azek and Miss Messenger, who gave him a higher success rate. This way, even if an accident happened during his suicide, preventing his success, there was still a chance to fight Amon in the subsequent battle. After a historical void's projection possessed their own consciousness, it made it much easier for Klein to maintain them. This resulted in an extension in time for the maintenance of the projection. Following that, he used the connection between the Scholar of Yore and their summoned historical void projection, quickly communicating to Servant of Concealment, Ariana, his intent to kill him. Ariana suddenly bent her body and her right hand reached behind her back. She pulled out a bone sword covered in strange patterns from the depths of the darkness. Then she suddenly took a step forward and swung her sword forward. The entire darkness literally stirred as it wildly spread towards where the spot Klein was standing. An unlucky monster happened to be situated between the two of them as it melted away when drowned by the tide of darkness. This wasn't the authority of concealment. This was a combination of repose and horror. It symbolized danger in the darkness, a symbol of silent destruction and vanquishment. The Beyonders of the Sleepless Pathway had to reach Sequence 3 Horror Bishop to grasp such powers. Subconsciously, Klein's survival instinct made him attempt to escape. But at that moment, he felt that the surrounding darkness was an enemy. If he was infected by that force, he would become a part of the tide. There was no avoiding it. There's no need to use all your strength. You can easily kill me with just a portion of your strength. Klein restrained his primal instincts, and he stood on the spot, waiting for the destruction to sweep through him. At that moment, a distant, illusory bell sounded. It was as if it had traveled through a long stretch of history, causing everything around it to slow down, including the surging darkness. In midair, swaths of darkness were pierced, revealing a gigantic wall clock carved out of stone. It was ancient and mottled, and its surface was separated into 12 segments by grayish-white and bluish-black colors. Each segment had different symbols, and the needle had a total of 3 hands, short, medium, long. It seemed to be formed from the 12 rings of a worm of time. As the second hand ticked, the bell rang again. Gong! As the sound echoed, the surging darkness like a tide slowed down even more. Then, the ancient clock's projection dissipated, turning back into a man with his pointed hat and monocle. Behind him, the projection of Zeradol was also in a sluggish state. Right on the heels of that, a man levitated in midair, extending his right hand, and he pressed down at the darkness. The darkness quickly returned to normal, drowning Klein without causing him any damage. It was unknown if there was a bug or if a Beyonder effect had been stolen. At the same time, Amon's body instantly became abnormally huge. It was nearly 20 meters tall, but none of his clothes suffered any damage. He looked down at Klein and raised his hand to adjust his monocle. He ignored the attacks from the Zeradol projection behind him, as he curled his lips and said with deep interest, "Interesting."